Our service is about to begin. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore, a welcoming and inclusive faith community. We ask that you kindly turn off your cell phones. Our service is open to all, visitors, friends, and members. Whether you are single, partners, or a family of any type, we welcome you. Whether you are here in the sanctuary with us, watching live online, or on demand, may our time together be one of learning and celebration. My name is Nancy Watson, and I am your worship associate this morning. I am a member of this congregation, and I also help out with the coffee in the morning and with organization of the road cleanup. Our worship service today is led by Pauline Nijander. Pauline has begun her 5th year as a Master of Divinity student at the Drew University Theological School in Madison, New Jersey, where she is studying for the Unitarian Universalist ministry and where she was recently awarded the Nijander Award for Excellence in Homiletics. Pauline has been a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton since 1213, and she has served in various leadership roles, including being the ministerial intern in the 2019-2020 academic year, and now as the seminarian, as a proud trans woman and lesbian. Pauline has spoken often to different community and student groups about her perspective and life in hopes of educating people through honest and engaging conversation about trans life and issues. For this work, she was awarded the 2017 Triad House LGBTQ+ Champion Award from Lifetimes, along with her wife Michelle and their sweet pit bull, Ingrid. Pauline resides in Ewing, New Jersey. Video of today's service will be available on your YouTube channel later today. If you care to tweet during today's service, you can use the hashtag UUCSJS. To those gathered live on Facebook, we welcome your comments as well as your joys and sorrows on that platform. Please remember that this video will be on the internet, so do not share information that's kept private. Welcome to worship.
We gather here together on this Sunday in the spirit of the principles that we believe in. We gather here together in the spirit of acceptance and in the worth and dignity of those around us as well as ourselves. We gather here together in the spirit of community and to celebrate the diversity that makes us who we are, human. It is through our shared humanity that we work together to build a community that celebrates the gifts and the diversity that each of us brings here. And as a lesbian, a woman, and a trans woman, I am grateful to be welcomed here as I am. Whether you be a guest or a longtime member, I hope that whoever you are, wherever you are on your life's journey, know that you are welcome here.
We will now have a chalice lighting, and our chalice lighter today is Maxine Blumenthal. Please join me in reading the chalice lighting words in our order of service that were written by Dr. Martin Luther King. Make a career of humanity. Commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in.
I invite the choir to come up. Nancy, do you want to tell them?
Please rise now in body or spirit and sing our gathering hymn, number 346. Come sing a song with me.
John is going to play the intro for you, and then we'll join in, and we're going to sing all the way.
When hope is hard.
Now we'll have a lighting of the children's religious educated lantern. We will now light the children's lantern. We light this lantern for our children and youth, and for us, celebrating the flame of faith lighted in each of us, honoring the light each of us brings into the world, rejoicing in the community that we create together. I can see you were confused. We didn't collect today because there weren't people to collect, but I should have said something. I apologize. Okay, we're to the joys and the concerns. A book is provided in the foyer in which you are invited to write whatever joys and sorrows you have as you enter. I will now read what you would share with this community. And today's February 12th. There is nothing in the book, but I would just like to say I know that it's in our hearts, all of us, for the people in Turkey and Syria, and of course Ukraine and Afghanistan and everywhere in the world. May they find strength, and that is a concern. Okay. Let us share a quiet time together to reflect upon our week. During the musical interlude, you may come forward and place a pebble in the water to acknowledge a personal joy or sorrow.
We are grateful to be here together in this place, a space that works to recognize the inherent worth, dignity, and humanity of each individual. And when we fall short, we make amends and work toward building that reality. We hold in our hearts those who continue to be dehumanized for one reason or another. May they be able to find safety, stability, strength, and compassion to carry on in those moments. May we and countless others continue to work toward recognizing the humanity in everyone, regardless of race, sexuality, gender identity, religion, ethnic origin, or any other label that can seek to separate instead of unite. May we be a source that helps build that better community. Lastly, may we and the nations of the world hold in compassion and care those affected by the recent earthquakes in Syria and Turkey this past week. May the families of loved ones killed in the quake be able to find some form of comfort as they begin the difficult task of picking up the pieces of their lives and rebuild. May the global community continue to recognize their humanity and not abandon them in their hour of need. Blessed be, and amen.
We are going to invite the choir up. We're going to revisit a song that we are all learning so that we can get to a place where we're going to sing it as a round at some point. But not today. John is going to play the melody for you. The lyrics, I believe, are in your order of service.
Every week we take up an offering during our service. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We know that it is through pledges that we build our budget and fund our yearly programs and ministries of worship and religious education, pay our staff and professional religious leaders, and finance the comfort and beauty of our building. If this is your first time visiting us today, feel free to let the basket pass, as your presence is gift enough. For those who are participating online, please visit uucsjs.org and click on the yellow donate button for ways to donate. Our offering says that the act of giving is essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. The morning offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship.
Don't let your troubles make you cry. Don't waste a moment wondering why. When everything goes wrong, you have to go on, do it or die.
Our reading today is an adapted excerpt from Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman. At the end of the reading, we will enter into a time of silent contemplation, concluded by the ringing of the bell. The religion of Jesus makes the love ethic central. This is no ordinary achievement. It seems clear that Jesus started out with a simple teaching concerning love embodied in the timeless words of Israel. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might, and thy neighbor as thyself. Once the neighbor is defined, then one's moral obligation is clear. In Memorial Story, Jesus defined the neighbor by telling of the Good Samaritan. With sure artistry and great power, he depicted what happens when a person responds directly to human need across the barriers of class, race, and condition. Every person is potentially every other person's neighbor. Neighborlessness is non-spatial. It is qualitative. A person must love their neighbor directly, clearly permitting no barriers between.
Before I begin, I would like to thank Deb for the invitation to come back, to Nancy, the worship associate, our wonderful musicians, and to our tech people, because without them, we wouldn't have this worship service online. So thank you. There is a story of a woman who lived almost 2,000 years ago. This woman happened to be suffering from an affliction that caused her to have abnormal menstrual flow for the past 12 years. Per the story, this woman spent everything she had on physicians and doctors of her time, and none of those doctors was able to figure out how to help this woman. Now, around this time that this woman lived, there was a teacher, a holy man of sorts. He traveled the land, speaking out against injustices done against the poor, healed the sick and the lame, and performed what many would say to be miraculous things on his journey. There would even be some that would say that he was touched by the divine, or divine himself. After hearing that this man was coming to her town, this woman thought to herself, I need to see him. Perhaps he would be able to heal me. What have I got to lose? But when she arrived, there were countless others that were pressing in on this holy man. And in fear of losing an opportunity to be healed, she crawls on her hands and knees, bumping into many of the people as she did so, until she is finally able to get close enough that her fingers touch the fringe of his clothes, and she immediately felt the hemorrhages stop. The holy man, being pressed in by those around him, turns around and asks, who touched me? Everyone around him denied doing so, and his closest followers say, "It's just the crowd surrounding you that must have touched you." Undeterred, the holy man maintains his stance. "Someone touched me, for I noticed that power had gone out from me." When the woman saw that she could not remain hidden, trembling, she came forward and fell down before the holy man, declaring in the presence of everyone there why she had touched him, and how she had been immediately healed. The holy man looked at her and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." For those of you familiar with the Christian scriptures, you may recognize this story as coming from Luke chapter 8, verses 43 to 48. Granted, what I just said was more than the 6 verses written into the Christian scriptures. But if you look at the text carefully, you'll find that all of that information was there for us to find. Now, before I continue a bit further, I want you all to know that whenever I approach the Judeo-Christian scriptures for any kind of sermon, I like to do a little bit of contextual framing so that we can better understand what is happening, as well as be able to find any liberative elements that are present within the story itself. In our modern context of the United States, a woman's period, while still taboo for many to discuss, does not come with the same problems as it did for a woman of the ancient Israelite community. Per the laws of the people at that time, a woman that has her period would be considered to be unclean and untouchable. Anything and anyone that she touched would be deemed unclean as well. A menstruating woman would be unclean and untouchable until her period had stopped and she was able to perform the appropriate purification rituals. The same would be of anyone that the woman had touched from the story while she was menstruating. Being a woman in this particular society would have been difficult enough, as that alone meant being relegated to the role of being a second-class citizen. But to be considered constantly unclean and untouchable by the laws of her people, she would have been viewed as something other than human. If we imagine ourselves into her position, I'm sure that many, if not all of us, would feel pretty dehumanized. Many tend to focus on the miracle of this woman's faith healing her from her medical issue. However, because of the context of this woman's life, I think we should be taking away a different story from this, a different lesson from this story. The woman of this story comes forward, falls at Jesus' feet, and in the presence of everyone proceeds just to say just why it is that she had touched him, and that touching him was what had cured her. Everyone that she would have bumped into on the way to touching the fringe of his clothes would have been made unclean. Even Jesus himself would have been considered unclean at that moment by the laws of the land. But Jesus does not rebuke her. Instead, he does the radical thing for his time and treats her with dignity, respect, and compassion. In short, Jesus treats her like a human being. The crowd, in seeing him treat the woman this way, appears to follow his example, and as a community, they do not ostracize her. No one voices any anger or displeasure at being considered unclean from her journey to be healed. We know this because in the next few verses, Jesus continues on his way with the crowd to do what he had come there to do, and the woman has gone on her way. This woman was able to have her humanity and liberation restored, not just from the single act of love by Jesus, but from among the entire community around her. That is the liberating message I think that we should be focusing on, allowing people to feel human again. Now, Some 2,000 years later, surely we must have learned and evolved in our way of thinking and being when it comes to the dehumanizing and othering politics of Jesus' time, right? I think in some ways we have learned and we have evolved, just sometimes not in the liberated direction. We hear constant stories of refugees fleeing from war-torn regions or countries that are overrun by violence, that we, as a Western power, had some part in creating the situation that was present there. Instead of helping refugees by offering them even a fraction of the responsibilities that we as a community have toward the other, responsibilities like food, safety, and healthcare, we turn them away or stop them at the border. Per the High Commissioner for Refugees at the United Nations, 68.5 million refugees are often branded as threats. Many often fall prey to sex traffickers and smugglers. And instead of providing assistance, we read about our politicians and members of our communities, dehumanizing them by saying they're rapists, terrorists, or drug dealers. We see whole communities of people telling them to go home. We hear more and more stories of members of the LGBTQIA+ community being called pedophiles and groomers by politicians and media outlets. Transgender women are constantly being branded as sexual predators out to harm the real women in bathrooms and women's shelters. The current political climate has even turned to making it illegal for trans and gender non-conforming youth to be who they know themselves to be. And we still often hear the same drumbeat that marriage equality would and has destroyed the sanctity of marriage as we know it. We even see stories from communities and people in positions of power saying things like, women bring sexual assault on themselves. Along areas of the US-Mexico border, we see women being treated as chattel, things to be thrown away. In a 2020 article of the Seattle Times about the femicide that is happening along the border, Ernestina Enriquez Fierro asks the powerful question, is being a woman a crime? We see and hear these stories that can make us think that dehumanization is the only way in our society. But just as we saw in a nearly 2,000-year-old story, there is an alternative way of thinking and behaving when it comes to the humanity of the other. In the context of our globalized and trans-contextual societies, we can bring about a world where all are seen as human in each other's eyes. Author Yoon-Ju Mary Kim says in her book, Preaching in an Age of Globalization, that humanization happens across 4 different interconnected elements. The first element is that we are all liberated when we are humanized and when we practice humanization. Kim says that humanization realizes one's right to be human. Human beings are liberated when they discern the evil of the age in which they live in and behaving when Human beings are liberated when they discern the evil of the age in which they live in, criticize it, and distance themselves from it. For us, as Unitarian Universalists, we can apply our principles to suss out many of the evils of our age. Evils like racism, sexism, transphobia, and classism. We are called to speak out against these forms of oppression and distance ourselves from them by living into our UU principles and values. Some things are easier than others, but some acts, like dismantling systems of oppression, takes years and decades of work to do. This is where Kim's second element of humanization comes into play, in that this is something that we must do as a community. Dismantling systems of dehumanizing oppression takes a lot of work, and it takes a community to do so. One voice, while important, can get drowned out, but many voices can create a chorus so loud that they have to be heard. To a second point on community, our seventh principle also plays a bit into this thought, in that we are an interdependent web of existence, and we are a part of that web. When we make changes in fighting the evils of our time, because of so much intersectionality in the evils of society, we will inevitably help ourselves out in the process. Kim's third element of humanization calls on us to stand in solidarity and to learn to come to terms with otherness and things that are different. We can look toward our own principles for guidance in this thought, as many of our principles speak to accepting one another and seeing the inherent worth and dignity of others. On top of this, we also need to be open to be enriched by those who are different from us. And the last element of humanization is where I differ from Kim's thoughts. For her, humanization is also rooted in God. Rooting humanization in God makes me ask the question, what about those that don't believe in a divine entity at all? Instead, I think that humanization should be rooted in the Greek concept of agape love, a type of love that is selfless, universal love that is bigger than ourselves and is filled with boundless compassion and an infinite empathy one extends to everyone. I'm going to be quoting from a speech that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave at Drew University in Madison, New Jersey on February 5th, 1964, because he said it better than I ever could with regard to agape love. And I quote, "I think that this is the kind of love that can guide us through the days and weeks and years ahead. This is the kind of love that can help us achieve and create the beloved community. I think this is what Jesus meant when he said, 'Love your enemies.' And I'm so happy he didn't say, 'like your enemies.' It's pretty difficult to like some people. Like is an affection. It has sentimental qualities, and frankly, it is difficult to like. I find it very difficult to like Senator Thurmond and Senator Eastland and the things that they are doing on this civil rights issue and the way they are voting. I really don't like it. But Jesus says, love them, and love is greater than like. Love is understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill for all men." End quote. And I would include women and those that do not identify as either gender in that quote. I would challenge us to reflect on our own lives and see, where do we purposefully or perhaps even unknowingly dehumanize or other people? I would challenge us to truly be honest with ourselves in this process of self-reflection. To get us into the practice of this thought process, I ask us to think about, what can we do to shift our thinking to see the humanity in the person who cuts us off on the Garden State Parkway as we're rushing to get to work on time, or believes that the Eagles shouldn't win the Super Bowl tonight? What can we do to shift our thinking and behavior when it comes to the immigrant, to the LGBTQIA+ community or women? What can we do to shift our thinking and behavior to see the humanity in the person who disagrees with us politically, or about vaccines, or some other hot-button issue? As Dr. King said so poignantly in his speech, we're not asking you to like them, but I am, however, asking you to see their humanity. Just as Jesus, as well as the community surrounding him, rejected othering the woman in the story, we should be grounding ourselves in our UU principles and do the same as they did. It is in choosing to love each other, that's each other, and recognizing the humanity in those who are different from us, that we can build communities that lift up everyone around us. Blessed be, and amen. And please rise in body and your spirit to join in our closing hymn, one of my favorites, number 1, 2, 3, Spirit of Life. That was number 1, 2, 3.
John is going to play violin through the song once, and then we're going to all join in and sing along.
For our closing words today, may love and compassion guide you in all that you do. May wisdom help you to seek responsible truths and meanings. May inspiration lead you to new places, and may the hope you bring be a beacon for others. May you share your beautiful gifts with the world. Blessed be, and amen.
Amen. In the closing words, extinguishing the chalice. Let's read the words together for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'm done pretending. I just wanna be unashamed to throw away this mask that I got on. So tired of trying, I just wanna breathe. Set me free from all the lies that I have ever known. Forgot what I was capable of. Got so drunk and I got so high on everyone's thoughts. I'm just very, 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 very human. I'm so done fighting. I just wanna feel like I belong. I am seen and heard and chosen. I'm so tired of holding on. I just wanna scream. I was made for more than what you think I'm meant to be. Got what I was capable of. Got so drunk, I got so high on everyone's thoughts. Overnight, I remember what I'm capable of. Drunk on love and drunk on hope, but now I know I'm just very, 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 very human. Just a beautifully imperfect and human. If you're feeling kind of lonely in a big crowd, me too. And you're invisible and they don't know who you really are, me too. Are you hurting and are you broken, but you're afraid to tell somebody, me too? Did you think that you could still be years later? Oh, me too. Oh, if you wish you could turn back the clock and fix things when you messed up, me too. Did you think that you could still be years later? Me too. If you're feeling something grateful, shout it out. Me too, me too, me too, me too, me too. You're not alone. Me too. 'Cause I'm just very, 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 very human. Just a beautifully imperfected human.
Me too. Oh, we have a few announcements today. And I just want to thank Pauline for coming today and giving us that beautiful homily, and for Gina and everyone who participated, and for everybody being here. Help is needed for coffee hour cleanup. This entails running the dishwasher, putting away items, wiping tables and service area, taking things to the compost bucket, checking the sanctuary to make sure left behind items are collected, orders of service recycled, and hymnals returned to the rack. You don't have to sign up for this. Just pitch in as needed each week. For every person that helps for just 5 minutes makes a huge difference. The UU Faith Action New Jersey Reparations Task Force announces the common reading of the 1619 project. Discussions will be held on Zoom 7 to 8:30 on Wednesday evenings beginning February 22nd. See the ad in the midweek message for more information and a link to the registration. We will hold an important workshop for all worship associates and people who are considering becoming a worship associate on Sunday, February 19th after the service. Worship associates who have served for years, as well as newer ones, should attend this session. For anyone who wants to see what is involved, please also attend. This is not to be a lengthy meeting. And finally, newcomers who don't forget about the after-service gathering today in the family lounge. We will get to know each other better, and you can learn more about our congregation. A light lunch will be served, and childcare will be provided. And I have a few other things here. Eastern Service Workers Association Winter Survival Campaign has tamales here today and next Sunday. Delicious, quick, eat and eat. $5 donation is buy and try 2 tamales. $10 donation for 6, $20 for a dozen. Clothing donations are being accepted by ESWA. Place clean, folded clothes in box in the foyer. Join us next Sunday for Allison Maxfield on how to love. Allison Maxfield, LCSW, is presenting How to Love, a sermon on how to enrich your loving relationship with yourself and others. Love stands for laughter, openness, veritas, which is truth, and enlightenment, which will be joyfully explored through multimedia. Please bring a picture of yourself to share. Why? Because if you don't love your selfie, who can you love? XOXO. We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting us today. Parents are encouraged to stay for the final moments of worship and treat their children afterwards. Now let us share in a moment of silent reflection to consider today's message and the meaning it has in our lives.